Mandy from Western Australia has just sent me the list here. This is just, I am completely in awe of my countrymen.
What's happening?
This is the new list for around Australia. I'll read it to you, Brady. Perth, Forest Place, Margaret River, Farmers Market, Adelaide, Shrine of Remembrance, North Terrace, Brisbane, Botanical Gardens, Caloundra, Kings Beach near the water fountain, Cardwell, Bruce Highway Park at the jetty, Ipswich, Queen's Park Cafe, Cairns, Curlew Barbecue near Muddy's Cafe, and that's only Western Australia, South Australia, Queensland. We've still got a half a list to go. Listen to this: New South Wales, we got Sydney, Hyde Park, Coffs Harbour at Brailsford Park, 6 Earl Street, Tweed Heads, Shrine Boyd's Bay, Newcastle, Spears Point Park, Windsor, Macquarie Park, Central Coast at the entrance, Muswellbrook at Simpson Park. Now we're moving on to Victoria. Listen to this: Melbourne, Luna Park, Frankston, Jubilee Park. They're going to start early at 11, so they're obviously very friendly lot. We got Shepparton, Victoria Lake Park, Lilydale Lake, Geelong at the Geelong waterfront. We've got Wodonga, Woodland Grove War Memorial, Bendigo, Roslund Park, 3 Jails, Canberra, ACT, the Square Civic, ACT Legislative Assembly, Hobart, Parliament House Lawn, Darwin, Botanical Gardens near the playground, and they're having a sausage sizzle, and of course Auckland at ATS Square, and this is all happening across both sides of the ditch this Saturday at noon. You know,
well, we are going to go back over all of that because we've just gone live, and anyone who's tuned in, thanks for tuning in to What Can I Do? Stop! What Can I Do? Graham Jeffs has hit a bit of a health hurdle, so hope he gets his voice back soon. My name's Brady Gunn. For those of you who don't know me, I'm from a stand at the park, so we're here in Sydney. We do a stand every Sunday, 10 a.m. in Hyde Park in Sydney. I've been standing there for 5 months, I think now, and we are standing for freedom. We're making a stand. We encompass all. We value Australian freedom. We value taking a stand in the physical. Posting on Facebook's just not enough, and if it's not us now, then who is it and when? And so we stand every Sunday. So I encourage you to come down and join us. We'd love to see you. And like the page, I stand at the park, it's called. And so yeah, we're just a bunch of people that just hang out on a Sunday. It's great networking, and that's what we're all about, and that's what we're talking about today here with Karen Brewer, the legend, the campaigner, the soldier, the Anzac.
You're awesome for stepping in for Graham. G'day everyone. For those of you that might not know, my name is Karen Brewer. I began my journey of awakening about 3 years ago, well, 2 and a bit years ago now, when Scott Morrison stood up and gave the most appalling sorry speech I had ever seen in my life for child abuses done in Australia. I grew up in New South Wales in the era of the Woods Royal Commission. You could not live in New South Wales at that time and not know about it. I was fully aware of Franca Arena outing the network of filth and how she was a Labor politician and how she was vilified by all sides of politics and the media. So when Scott Morrison jumped up and gave that sorry speech and bloody body language and everything else, at that time I didn't realise what I was looking at. I just knew I was angry. And I sat down and I said to myself, how do you get 40 years worth of politicians from all sides of politics silent on the abuse of power of suppression orders? So I thought about that for a couple of days, and then I thought, well, got to be a common denominator here. I thought the best place to start is, where did all our politicians go to school? And so I sat down here and I worked out where every politician in the 46 parliaments that we've had federally went to school. And through doing that process, I noticed it was the same schools over and over again, cycled up generation to generation. And I was like, that's odd. In the meantime, I'd written to Scott Morrison saying to him that these documents needed to be released to the public unredacted immediately because it doesn't pass the pub test. I had no response from Scott Morrison. I sent that to him, registered mail, hard copy, and via email multiple times. So then I got in touch with my local federal member, Karen Andrews, who was educated at Townsville Grammar School, by the way. I had to agitate her for over a 12-month period before I received a written from the Attorney General, Christian Porter, who supplied me pages of crap, and the closing paragraph was, future correspondence from you may not receive a response. At which point I thought, really, Christian? 42,041 fellow Australians contacted that Royal Commission and detailed the abuses done to them as children, and Christian didn't want to talk to me. So I started a Facebook page. I started posting my research and what I was discovering on my Facebook page, and then I started to do lives trying to give people a history lesson on how to really listen to a politician's maiden speech, because they're really, really a wealth of information once you understand the network. And so in the course of realising every politician in the country, state, federal and local, and I've researched all of them, all came out of the same network of schools over and over again. I was like, that's odd. So then I started drilling down into those schools, and you soon discover all of those schools are in fact founded by Freemason DeMolay connected people. Right back to the early days, to an original teacher that was imported over here from England by the name of Dave. That led me to the legislation for the Sydney Grammar Schools Act, which has this little clause in there that says the Board of Trustees shall be appointed by the Governor. Everything seems to lead back to the Governor. I continued on writing to politicians, all my senators. As a matter of fact, I actually wrote to every senator across the country and every House of Reps member across the country. Did not receive any responses. During the course of this,
what were you writing? What were you asking for at this stage?
The same thing I'm asking for now. Those documents released to the public unredacted. That is what is required.
And what are the documents?
I don't negotiate with child rapists.
The ones that are under the repression order.
Refers to in his speech. Yep. Senator Heffernan actually outs the whole network of filth in his opening paragraph of that speech, where he says, I have produced a set of documents to the Royal Commission under an order to produce, and they are police documents. Right in that paragraph, he just told you the 6 Royal Commissioners on that Royal Commission were corrupt because they did nothing about it. He told you they were police documents. The police did nothing about it. So he just told you that the wider judiciary is corrupt. And who appoints the commissioners, Brady? That would be the politicians. That is the complete
boys club we're dealing with here.
Yeah, and they are all Freemason connected, all of them.
And why do you think that Senator did what he did?
Because I believe Senator Heffernan is an honourable man. I believe we've only ever had 2 honourable politicians in Australia, Franco Arena being the first one, and Senator Bill Heffernan being the second. I'd like to draw.
Did he come out of one of these schools?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. He came out of St. Joseph's.
And so do you see more in the current climate, do you see more politicians speaking up right now? Because they're kind of key, aren't they, to blowing the top off everything that's going on, not what we're just talking about here, but all of the lies that we're dealing with right now.
Every corruption, every lie that every politician has ever told us arises from this filthy Freemason DeMolay connection. They are groomed for the role that they play from childhood. They are master deceivers. They're groomed to deceive. And here we are, still with deceivers. And now, this is the line in the sand for me, Brady. Why would I abide by any rule or regulation given to me by a child rapist, pedophile protecting politician? Now, their collective silence convicts them now.
And that's a very good point, because we're not just dealing with who's on that list there. We're dealing with the people who voted to suppress this information, and that just goes to show the depth of the sordid boys' club that we're dealing with here.
Oh, it's not a boys' club. The women are definitely involved. Absolutely, they are. Absolutely, they are.
Tell me more about that.
Well, they are networked as children through a movement called Demolay. Now, Demolay is the order of Freemasonry for children. It's for boys between 12 and 21 and the daughters of Master Masons. The daughters of Master Masons are attached to chapters of Demolay. They are known as Princess, Sweetheart, Little Sis, and Duchess. And they are attached to 2 chapters of Demolay. Demolay, I believe, is actually, they have the children offend on other children. So you have the older children offending on the younger children. And this is what binds the silence, in a sense. They're all guilty.
So you're saying that these women politicians have come through the system since they were born, basically?
Absolutely,
right.
Absolutely. And the little clause that stitches up the whole shop, if you go to the Constitution, the Senate Part 2.7, at the bottom it says, the senators chosen shall be certified by the governor to the Governor General. If you go to the House of Reps part of the Constitution, it's a cleverly worded backspeak that means exactly the same thing. So the reality is you don't get your name on a ballot paper unless you've been certified by the state governor. How do you get certified? Bloodline connections. You must be connected to the Freemason Demolay family network of filth. And that's a fact. I've researched them all.
And so, just to shift it into another gear as such, when we're looking at what's happening here with what I think we both agree is a lie in this coronavirus,
absolutely, it's bullshit,
and the depth of the depth of it. Why are all of the Australian politicians, because it's kind of all of them, they've all voted all of this in, and they're all in at least on the line? Why have they? Is this a far deeper Mason network that comes from the globalists to the very top?
Absolutely. The United Nations is actually the global administration branch of Freemason Demolay. That's for global control of the world. That is what the United Nations are. They should actually be called the Freemason Demolay Global Network of Filth. That's what it should be called. When you research all this, the chairs...
Or the United Pedos.
Yeah, that is exactly what it is. In regards to our politicians, Brady, you'll often hear them say things like they'll fly out to UN summits and forums, then they'll fly back into the country and they say, oh, we're introducing this legislation because it's in line with the OECD guidelines. Okay. Now, the UN OECD is actually policy making. Okay, and that's what happens. They get told what legislation to pass, and if you go to the OECD OECD website, you can actually read through it. They're quite open about it.
That's the thing that gets me about all of this stuff, is just how out in the open it all is. They're not even hiding it. It's in black and white. It's coming out of their own mouths on camera.
Yeah.
Still,
and it says right there, the OECD's function is to review every country's legislation and then instruct those countries which legislation needs to be changed to fall in line with what they want. It actually tells you that. People, seriously, go Google it. OECD and .org is the website. I mean, it takes you about three weeks to get through it thoroughly, but I mean, once you do, you can't not know.
So why do you think that people have had such a number done on them when this information's right there in black and white? It's come out of their mouths. It's common knowledge if you do the work. Why are people not rioting in the streets? Why are people making excuses to these guys? Why aren't people seeing through lies that are just so obvious that it's unbelievable? What I mean, have you gone down that sort of psyop path?
Oh, absolutely. It began in the 60s. With a thing called the UN the UNESCO, which is the UN branch for Educational, Science and Cultural Organisation. Remember that, cultural organisation. Now, in the 80s, when Hawke was elected as the Prime Minister, he promptly appointed Gough Whitlam as the ambassador to the ESCO, the Education, Science and Cultural Organisation branch. And Gough Whitlam very promptly began implementing and working towards dumbing down the curriculum. One of the first things they did, well, actually, this was in Whitlam's years as the Prime Minister, the first thing they did was remove constitutional studies from school, because it's very important that you make people dumb about their rights. So that was the first thing that was done in Whitlam's years. And of course, during the time Gough Whitlam sat on the UNESCO, many, many, many years, that was the uprising of transgenderism and accepting of all sorts of sickness into the syllabus. And of course, that was rolled out globally, you know. And of course, now here we are, 2021, and our children know of every sexual perversion known to man, roughly at about the age of 5, but yet literacy is a problem. You see, it was very important that you remove any ability of critical thinking in children. What you want is an entire network of obedient slaves. That's what they wanted. And that is why the curriculum is structured the way it is around the world. It's not just Australia, it's around the world. People need to understand the connection. There was a chap by the name of Yuri Brezmenov, Brady, who was a former KGB agent, and he defected to Canada and America back in the 80s. You can find his videos on YouTube. There's 2 interviews that he did. They go for roughly an hour. He outlines the whole network of why it's important to infiltrate academia. People often say, oh, gee, what's wrong with the universities? They're full of leftists. No, they're not full of leftists. They're full of Freemason demolays. And it's very easy in Australia and New Zealand to identify a Freemason demolay. The only 2 questions you need to ask is, where did you go to school? Which primary school? Which high school? And who's your daddy? I can tell you now, any person in Australia that has letters after their name, especially that OAM, Order of Australian Molestation, they are all in fact Freemason demolay connected individuals. They are filthy. Here we are, 40 years after Franca Arena gave her speeches outing the network of filth in our judiciary. And you notice all the so-called prominent people across Australia are mute. Do you hear that silence? All the prominent people, all those in the media, actors and actresses, politicians past and present. Do you hear the silence from them all?
It really is deafening, and we're all commenting on it. It's very noticeable. And they're really innocent. They're really guilty by silence. They really are.
That silence convicts them now. And of course, in the process of doing this research, many, many pieces of the puzzle started falling into place for me. And then when I got to the point where I realised the connection between the governance of these schools, which had collectively, across years, hushed up and suppressed the abuses that were going on. I mean, we can go back to the early 1920s when there were children walking into police stations telling people they were being abused in these orphanages, and the police would just pick them up and drop them back there again, where they would be beaten. And this has been going on since the first fleet arrived.
Horrible. Horrible. So everybody's. I think we're at a point in time now where technology's linked us, and there's no veil to hide behind anymore for these guys. And a lot of people are really waking up, and so now's our time. And if it's not us now, then who is it and when? And so we've got a big do on Saturday. It's going to be Australia-wide. It's going to be New Zealand-wide.
I started using my Facebook page people to write letters to their politicians and senators. And I'd put template letters up there, and I'd say to people, can you please write, please email, and blah, blah, blah. And literally, there were thousands and thousands of people emailing and sending letters to the politicians. I came across Thanos Paniadis way back at the early beginning of this year, and I reached out to connect with him. And it was Thanos that said to me, oh, Karen, you need to get a whiteboard so that you can actually start showing people the stuff that you're talking about. That's where I thought, oh, I don't have a whiteboard, but I've got walls and blue tack. So I started printing everything out. I started printing everything out. And I used to put them all over my walls, right? And I'd do these lives every night, and I was getting literally thousands of thousands of tens of thousands of views, right? And because I was doing it like a class, like my fourth grade teacher, Mrs. Stern, would have done a class, right? And so that's what I was trying to do. And in the course of doing that, over the abuses that unfolded in Victoria, Thanos started a web page where he put these letters, as well as Brian Shaw's letter and the My Will letter, on this website. And we were asking people to print these letters off and please send them off to their. Well, that actually happened by the hundreds of thousands.
Wow.
Hundreds of thousands of people actually. And of course, the politicians started to get really agitated because all of these people were now starting to realise about Senator Heffernan's speech, which I used to promote every day on my Facebook page. Now, what happened was Australia Post came out, Brady, and they said, we can't keep up with all the registered letters, right? And then Scott Morrison came out and made an announcement where he said that he had instructed Australia Post not to deliver the registered mail as a priority.
You're joking.
No. Anyway, I was like, oh my God, this is so awesome. And then there was Senator Jane Hume. Oh, what a gift she was. She put a post up showing a stack of like mail, and she goes, people, stop writing to me. And I'm like, she had that on her Facebook wall, actually telling her constituents to stop writing to her.
This is who we're dealing with.
People are supposed to be representing us, but they never ever have been. They have been always representing the Freemason Demolay global agenda, which is what has led us to where we are today. Now, I saw Scott Morrison's bloody come up on my news feed, like I still occasionally read the news. It announced today that 4 million Australians will be vaccinated by March. We say no. Simple as that. We say no. We're not having you vaccinated.
Well, I say, and this is where I had to find my line, because I disagree with this vaccination. And if you look into what an mRNA vaccination is, I mean, you've got to be fucking mad, to be honest. But
it's got formaldehyde.
I'm all about freedom, and so if somebody wants to vaccinate themselves and their kids, I will fight to the death for their kids. But if they want to go for it, then they can go for it. And I've always said, I'm standing in that park for my freedom, and you can stand right next to me.
Absolutely.
And if you completely disagree with me, and I completely disagree with you, then I don't care. If you're fighting for my freedom and I'm fighting for yours, then let's fight for each other's freedom. And that's the Anzac spirit, and that's what we're fighting for on Saturday. We're all going to be under the same umbrella. We're all under the same umbrella now. Everybody agrees with you. You agree with somebody who's really passionate about some of these other things that have fallen under this forced umbrella that we've found in this ridiculous lie that is COVID-19. And so we'll be fighting for our freedom. This is a nationwide event in Australia. And it's a nationwide event in New Zealand. And so it's a nationwide fight for freedom, for individuals standing together. And I keep saying, do not wait for the 10,000 people to be somewhere. 2001st. It starts with us now. If there's 10,000 people in that park, there's 10,000 individuals who took personal responsibility and action for themselves for Australian, New Zealand freedom. So be there on Saturday. You come. There's other things going on.
Absolutely. And it's for everyone.
So just start taking action in the physical.
It's for everyone. It doesn't matter whether it's 5G, full-term abortions, forced vaccinations, facial recognition, restrictions to travel. It doesn't matter what the issue is. What matters is that people are coming together right across Australia in all locations, and it's really important now more than ever that you make those connections in your local community. I can't stress that enough. It is really important that on Saturday you go up to strangers and you introduce yourself to people, and that you exchange phone numbers with people in and around you. You've got to create that personal connection. Our government's going into overdrive to restrict and disconnect people. And we're not going to allow that to happen. We are not going to allow that to happen. So this Saturday at noon, right around Australia, you guys turn up at these parks. You're going to meet fabulous people. I guarantee you that. You are going to meet fabulous people. You are going to make some terrific friends in your community and in your wider area. I'm telling you, Brady, on this Saturday, you are going to meet fabulous people from Wollongong and Newcastle that I know I have decided they're coming to the Hyde Park one.
And I can vouch for that. I mean, I stood in Hyde Park there pretty much by myself. If it wasn't for my fantastic friend Andrea, we stood there alone for nearly 3 months in the rain and everything until people came down. And when people came down, it was worth it, because we have made the best connections, and these guys are the real deal. And you have to take action in the physical, and it's time now. It's time to use your body. Posting on Facebook is hot air. We're preaching to the converted half the time. We're headbutting shills the other half of the time. And anybody who wants to swallow this shit, hook, line and sinker, can go and get fucked. Like, we've got to leave them behind now. We're not going to save everybody. So it's now time to connect with the people who feel the same, and expand that network and create the movement for people to follow and step into.
Well, we already are. We already are creating the movement. There can be absolutely no doubt about that. I mean, look at this list of people across towns in Australia that have put their hand up and go, you know what, I've had enough and I'm not going to take this anymore. And they're going to be right around the country. Perth, Margaret River, Adelaide, Brisbane, Caloundra, Cardwell, Ipswich, Cairns, Sydney, Coffs Harbour, Tweed Heads, Newcastle, Windsor, Central Coast, Muswellbrook, Melbourne, Frankston, Shepparton, Lilydale, Geelong, Wodonga, Bendigo, Canberra, Hobart, Darwin, and of course us in New Zealand. Now, I just want to say to everyone, who would have ever imagined that Australians and New Zealanders would never be able to come and go between our countries freely? There are literally tens of thousands of Kiwis with family living in Australia and vice versa. Who would have ever imagined that you would not be able to come and go freely between our countries? Our sons fought and died in wars, standing shoulder to shoulder with each other for our freedom. Our governments have absolutely no right abusing us this way and telling us you can't travel if you're not vaccinated. This is going to ramp up to such a degree that it'll be, if you're not vaccinated, you can't access your bank account. If you're not vaccinated, you can't register your car, you can't renew your driver's license. That's where this is going. We're not going to take it. And this Saturday, right across Australia, you are going to build and make friendships and connections with people right across the country. And it's going to be awesome. So you get your esky and you get your jats and your cabanossi, and you make sure you're there, because I'm telling you, this weekend you are going to meet the most amazing Australians.
Yep. So be there, guys. There's no excuses. There's always something. And so do not make excuses for this one. Come down. Don't be scared. We're making a stand. That's all we're doing. This is not what you saw in Melbourne. We're just simply making a stand and connecting.
And friendship.
Check below for your venues. Karen's listed off the cities. Check below for the venues and keep posting in, and make sure you like a Stand in the Park page. We'll be posting on there. Make sure you like obviously the Aussie Patriots page, and we'll keep you updated with what's going on. There'll be lives. There'll be some cool people, and be there, and there'll be further events. And so,
can I just say,
for whatever reason, if you are out of the country, then you can come next time to make sure that you've got to take action. You've got to take action, because I tell you what, history will not look back on you kindly if you don't. And so we'll see you there. So thanks for joining us, Karen. It's been an honour filling in for the great Graham
Thanks,
Jeffs.
Brady. Can I just say one final thing? New Zealand have buses coming in from a variety of places. Tauranga, Rotorua, there's a whole list of them actually, and they're coming into the square in Auckland. I've been contacted from people from a variety of places across the North Island today that have expressed their desire to meet me on Saturday, and I am looking forward to meeting tens of thousands of my Kiwi cousins.
Okay, and if you are watching this,
if you're
and
watching
you do want
this
to check
and
in,
you're a
then,
New Zealander or you've got a relative in Australia that's in New Zealand, please make sure they know that this is happening in Aotea Square this Saturday at noon.
And if you want to network with anybody who's who might be coming from outside of Auckland, then jump on the Aussie Patriots page. You're free to post on there, and so let's build the networks to get to the networks through there. We're all united. We're all one. We're fighting for our freedom. You're a true soldier, Karen. I appreciate being here, and I won't see you there, but I'll be chatting to you from here in Sydney.
Yep. Oh, this is going to be awesome. This is going to be. I can't wait to see everyone's lives from right around the country. I mean, look at these locations we've got, and these people, New Zealanders and Australians. We only started to do this last week, and here we are. It's Thursday. Today's Thursday, and look at all these locations we've got happening around the country. How awesome are we? We are awesome.
Well done.
When you anger Anzac, I know we're not having this shit no more.
Just the beginning. All right. Thanks, Karen. We'll see you soon.